The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is episode 32 of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network. Hiking Florida and some iconic Florida foods.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, City Girl Jemmy and Country Boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
Well, coming up on today's show, we have Misti Little of the Orange Blaze, a Florida trail podcast, who's joining us to talk about hiking in Florida. Yes, that happens. And we also learn about the Florida Trail, one of the 11 National Scenic Trails in the country.
Is it also the flattest out of 11? I'm just guessing.
Yes, it is, actually. I think there's an elevation gain of, 1 foot? Also, we learn about one big steak and some iconic Florida foods, all on today's show. Listen in. Well, Jemmy, have you been out and about? You've been to the beach. You've been to 12 restaurants. You've been to the movies. Let me tell you,
I've been partying it up. It's been karaoke every single night. It's been speed datings on Wednesdays. It's been church service all day long on Sunday. No, I haven't been anywhere. I've been nowhere except my window pane looking outside. That's where I've been.
You happen to be in one of the hardest hit areas of Florida, too, which doesn't help.
Gosh, it's just, it's at that point where I walk outside and I'm just now imagining coronavirus particles everywhere.
So for those that don't know, Jemmy does live down in, if you've all been hearing about Palm Beach and if you've all been hearing about Miami, well, that's kind of where Jemmy lives.
We first got on the map with the elections so long ago, and we've never gotten off the map of absurdity.
So what's it feel like to be the epicenter of the entire world?
If only it was a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's never a good thing when Palm Beach County makes the map. It is never a good thing. And in this case, it's still not a good thing. But you know what? One thing I was really happy about, I managed to catch a live hearing or whatever of the school board because they were discussing school openings and some people are advocating for full on brick and mortar schools in a month. And I'm like, are you crazy? Our numbers are going up. So it was nice to listen in on those opinions and stuff. And they're from everybody, teachers included. And thankfully, the decision was made. Virtual schools to start. Oh, thank God.
For yours too? For JoJo's too?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was not even a question in my mind. He was not going back to in-person school right away. No way. Not with my bad lung. Not happening.
Yeah, I mean, we do have special circumstances, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, we do.
Definitely doesn't help.
So it's not fun being at the epicenter of this, but, hopefully we'll start seeing things turn around in a good way.
Well, if you're looking at visiting Florida, check local jurisdictions before you do, depending on where you're going, because everything is different in Florida. Every county, every city, everything is different. So you're going to have to check your local jurisdictions. Now, I was just watching our friend Lou Mangello, who does the Disney podcast. He was live at Disney at Magic Kingdom today with his family. And let me tell you, there was no problem social distancing there. The place was empty.
Wow.
It was pretty empty. So yeah, but it was fun watching him live and hearing the music in the background and everything. So that was kind of fun. But
Imagine
that opens right
Disney
now.
With short lines? Who would have ever thought?
Yeah, I know. No lines at all anywhere. Now, I'm sure that'll change. But they're limiting the number of people that are going in. So we'll see what happens there. But if you want to check that out, go to WDW today and you can watch his videos there. They put plexiglass up. You know how when you get in lines between on the rides, it zigzags back and forth? Well, they put plexiglass up between all of those zigzags.
See, that was my big question because you can social distance from the person in front of you or behind you, but how do you socially distant from the person next to you? So that makes a lot of sense. Thank goodness. That's good.
It's a plexiglass wonderland.
Let me tell you, my local convenience store, when I go on my beer runs, also a plexiglass wonderland, and I love to see it. It's plexiglass right in front of the cash register. Like, woohoo!
Well, speaking of Disney, there are 1,500 NBA players, their families, and support staff that are now arriving at Disney World to play the rest of their shortened season and playoffs. They're going to be kind of in a bubble. And this is what I've been hearing. You're going to love this. So they're staying at the Grand Floridian. Well, you remember that's the most exclusive hotel.
That's the one we walked into, and the drunk girls from the bus were like,
yes.
Jemmy and Glenn!
That's exactly where they're staying. It runs about $500-$600 a night, by the way. So they built the chain link fence that's about 8 foot high that completely sections off the parts that they're going to be at the Grand Floridian all the way around it.
Really?
Like a long chain link fence. And then they put tarps over it so that you can't see in.
Oh.
So
they made it into an exclusive resort, is in other words.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And get this, some people that were visiting there saw them bringing in hundreds of huge mattresses.
Oh, because they're so tall.
So imagine king size. Apparently they're double kings.
Imagine you're so tall you have to travel with your own mattress. Oh my gosh.
So they'll be having a sale on big mattresses here in about a month after they're gone.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Apparently truckloads of these huge mattresses were arriving at the front, and then it took about 8 people to carry each one into the hotel.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
They're reportedly paying Disney $150 million for this month.
Wow. Well, Disney's gotten hit just like everybody else, so I guess they got to make it up somehow. Goodness.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They're not allowing them or their families apparently to go into the parks during open hours, but they're going to be having special hours where they're just them.
That's weird. So you're paying all this money to be at Disney, but then you're not allowed to go to Disney.
They're keeping them completely separated so they don't get sick. They're trying to keep the families and everybody completely segregated.
Yeah.
So they'll be bringing them in on their own special hours. They'll be in there by themselves. But what made me got to think is these 7-footers, how do they fit in any of these rides?
That's another good question. I mean, the leg room alone, and you don't want to go on Space Mountain because you can't see if your head's about to come off.
That's true. And there was not a lot of room in that ride. That's for sure. I barely fit. I don't know how they're going to fit in the rides. I really don't.
Oh man, good luck, guys. Good luck.
So there was a AAA study that studied Florida residents, and this is what they came up with. It was very interesting, and it was about travel for Floridians right now. The pandemic has affected 76% of the state's residents' travel plans this year. I know. It certainly has affected ours. We would have done 3 adventures by now.
Honestly, who's the 24%? How has it not affected you?
They had no plans. They weren't going anywhere.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The data indicates that 40% of respondents scheduled one or more vacations this year or had to reschedule one or more vacations, and 39% they'd canceled a trip altogether, which I certainly have, and that you and I have definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, 57% of participants said they would travel less due to the pandemic, and 27% they said they just rescheduled for next year, basically.
Oh,
so it's affected everybody. I mean, it's kind of one of those studies you went, okay.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Definitely about right. And it did say what we've been hearing all along, that people are planning on driving instead of flying. Only 20% Floridians said they would fly, and the rest will drive to trips within 300 miles.
Honestly, I think the only way that I would fly at this point is if your other co-host, Jamie's husband, picked me up in a private jet, and I knew I could trust that he would have sprayed the whole thing down. That's the only way I'm flying.
Yeah, American is even putting in middle seats now. They're not separating anymore. They're just full flames.
Oh, so just all out the window. It's just all shenanigans at this point. All right, I see.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, God.
So there's a little bit, as I said, check with wherever you're planning on going in Florida, because the beach may be closed. The restaurants could be closed. Your area, that's all closed. Right?
Yeah. And
restaurants and all that.
It used to be that your biggest concern was, am I going to be staying in a dry county? Because then you have to pre-plan and make sure that you can get your drink on other ways. Now we have to worry about, are the restaurants open? All these other things do you have to worry about from county to county? I know. I mean, honestly, I've just stopped paying attention as far as what's really going on exactly in my backyard, because I've, for my own reasons, have just decided I can't really participate, with my lung situation. So I don't know the specifics as to what's open and what's not, but I do know that it's a sad state when I'm about to say, I do know that the breweries are still producing their hand sanitizer. That is on my radar.
And her beer.
What's wrong with me?
I know you haven't given that up for the COVID. I don't.
No. I have plenty of beer to drink, but also I understand that there's plenty to eat at a sweet spot we're going to cover next.
So good and tasty. So good. Oh, God, it's so good. Tasty.
Well, my restaurant highlight for this episode, I've been talking about things that are big, and we're going to talk a lot about big things today and things that are over largely sized in Florida.
I'm sure that was grammatically correct somehow.
Yes, I made up
for largely sized.
So I had to find, we talked about big sandwiches. We talked about big ice cream.
We've had big burgers.
Talk big burgers. We're going to talk about big steak. So apparently there's a steakhouse. And I got to tell you, I haven't had a steak in a long time.
You poor man.
Yeah. Charley Steakhouse in Orlando is well known. It's been there since 1974. And when I was looking at the menu, my mouth was watering. They select only hormone-free 3-year-old USDA prime choice Angus steers, aging them for 4 to 6 weeks for tenderness and flavor. They're hand-cut by their managers. And they get this. This is your dream come true. So this is the highest quality beef. It's hormone-free, all of that stuff. Well, they also have, they're known for their seafood. And they're Charley's Ultimate Surf and Turf. You want to hear about that?
Yes, please.
You better be hungry.
I am.
Because it is a 50-ounce porterhouse.
Oh.
50-ounce porterhouse. Now, that's a few pounds.
That is a lot of meat. I'm immediately remembering. Do you remember that movie? I think it was called like The Great Outdoors or something. And John Candy had to try to put down this massive, massive steak. Do you remember this movie from the 80s?
Yes, I do remember it.
Oh my gosh. And he got down to everything, thought he was done. And then he realized he still had to eat the grizzle. That's what comes to mind when you say 50-ounce porterhouse, something that big.
That's 3 1/4 pounds.
Wow.
Porterhouse. And I love porterhouse. It's one of my favorite cuts, but that's a lot. I might be able to do that. I could.
Yeah, but then you'll be on the toilet for like a whole week.
And it also comes with a 1-pound lobster tail. All of that you can get at Charley Steakhouse in Orlando for $160.
And is there a penalty? Like, if you know how some restaurants, like, they say, okay, you can get this great deal, but if you share it, then you have to pay a little extra. Are you allowed to share this? Because I would need to share it.
Well, I don't know that they have a record wall, but I know you. If we went there, you would get the lobster for sure.
I would get the lobster for sure. And if I made it through the porterhouse too, they better put me on a wall. I don't care if there is one yet or not, but they better put me on a wall. It's amazing.
Now, if that doesn't sound good enough, their steaks, chicken, and fresh fish are all cooked over a Florida citrus and oak wood burning pit.
Wow. Yep. I'm definitely having a mouth-watering moment right now. That's for sure.
It just sounds so good. I could really use a steak right now.
So you know that all you're doing with these little segments is creating a list for us when we finally start going around again. It's going to be an amazing.
Do we ever leave our houses
adventure.
again?
Oh yeah. So this one's in Orlando. Ooh, so maybe I wonder if all those NBA players are going to be hitting up Charley Steakhouse. You know they are, and they could probably put down a 50-ounce porterhouse.
They probably could without any trouble at all.
There you go, Charley Steakhouse. Perfect timing.
All right, Charley, we're coming over when we get out of this house again and get to Orlando. We're coming to see you. We're visiting Charley. And that's charleysteakhouse.com if you are visiting Orlando and are feeling like a 50-ounce porterhouse. Well, coming up next, we have a very special guest to talk about something that we have not talked about yet in our adventure
Elevation.
podcast.
Elevation?
Elevation. That's right.
Sorry,
and that is Misti Little of the Orange Blaze, a Florida Trail podcast. And we're going to be talking about hiking in Florida. And it's not something that Jemmy and I are known for, hiking, to be honest. But I bet you very few people, Misti, know that there is a very long trail in Florida.
That's true. It is about 1,300 miles with several sections that get extended about 1,500 miles if you included a couple different alternates. But yes, it is a long trail. Most people are familiar with, the Appalachian Trail or maybe the Pacific Crest Trail. But Florida has its own National Scenic Trail, and it's right in, everyone's backyard. There's a segment that you can hike from just about anywhere you are in the state.
Wow.
I assume it starts at Pensacola and goes all the way to the Keys?
It actually starts in Big Cypress around the Oasis Visitor Center on Tamiami Trail. It used to start officially on Loop Road, and there was about an 8-mile segment in there between Loop Road and 41 that they've kind of eliminated.
Okay, so for our non-Florida people, where is that in the state?
Loop Road is in Big Cypress. And
where's that?
Big Cypress National Preserve. It's the southern part of the state between Miami and Naples.
Got it. Okay. So down Everglades area.
Yes. It's just adjacent to the Everglades. Exactly.
And then does it go all the way up through the Panhandle?
Yes, it goes all the way, you head all the way straight north to White Springs, and you kind of make a beeline west around, kind of bouncing back and forth across I-10 a few times, and then it ends at Fort Pickens in the western part of the Panhandle.
Fort Pickens. I love that name. Sorry.
So if Jemmy, she's almost at the beginning of the trail down there. Yeah. She lives in Boynton Beach. If she, she's about 5'2". So I think if she started hiking now, it goes right by me out of Ocala National Forest up here. In another, 5 weeks, she could be here.
Yeah, if I started off hiking and, I wanted to make sure that I got to my destination of Ocala, Florida, how many crazy pills would I have to take to actually make it?
I don't know about crazy pills. Yeah, but 5 weeks, that's probably about right to get there.
It sounds like a lot of fun, actually. I know I kid, but it actually sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, right now, what options we have and what we can do is still pretty limited. And, there's nothing better than getting out and seeing the great outdoors. Florida has such a beautiful, gorgeous landscape that covers pretty much every kind of habitat you can imagine from one side to the one end to the other. So if you're hiking this thing, you said, I think before we started recording, you did mention that you've been on the trail with your husband. What were some of your favorite parts of it?
Yes, so we hiked the Florida Trail in the winter of 2011, and the best time to hike the Florida Trail as a through hike, which means you would start from one end of the trail and hike it to the other end in like one fell swoop, would be in December through late March is when you would kind of want to start the trail. And really late March is when you want to be ending it. Yeah. Because, as we know, bugs get worse.
I was just thinking mosquitoes.
And mosquitoes. But yes, so we hiked in January of 2011 and finished in March of 2011. And some of our favorite sites, we love Big Cypress and we love that section so much. We're swamp hikers. We love being in the Everglades and cypress domes and seeing the epiphytes and bromeliads growing on all of the cypress trees. So this is definitely one of the highlights of the trail for us. But, one of the gems that we weren't aware of at the time was the Suwannee River section. That continuously, as I talk to people on my podcast, turns out to be one of everybody's favorite sections because they didn't know about it. And when you're up there hiking along the Suwannee River, you're hiking along the bluffs of the river, and there's this beautiful campsites that you can camp out along the river. If you're brave enough, you could paddle down the river if the water is at the right height at the time. And it's just so scenic and beautiful up that direction. Those are probably one of the two highlights. And of course, the one of the other bigger highlights of doing that Florida Trail is you get to hike on the beach at the end. So you're hiking for several, probably about 50 miles along Santa Rosa Island and Gulf Shores National Seashore. And you get to walk along that and finish in Fort Pickens. And there's no other National Scenic Trail that ends at the beach. It's pretty just a picturesque way to go hike in Florida.
Well, I have to ask you about something. We both are friends with Steve Adams, who does Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail podcast. And one of the things that we've learned from following Steve is that every hiker has a nickname, and that's what they go by. And yours is Ridley. So where did Ridley come from?
From the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. I did an internship in college with tagging Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, and I fell in love with sea turtles. And my goal of one day was to be a sea turtle biologist, but I didn't end up down that route. So, I can be a Ridley at heart.
Oh, that's awesome. I may or may not have a sea turtle tattoo. Maybe not.
Nice.
Let me ask.
She does somewhere have a sea turtle tattoo because she's talked about it before. So I can confirm that.
Well, you see me in scuba gear. You see me changing into scuba gear.
That's true. I was just going to ask, one of the things they talk about on the AT, and everybody says, oh, bears are going to eat you alive, right? That's one of the fears that everybody has on the AT. I imagine you see a few gators when you're hiking on the Florida Trail. But, one of the things, if you live here, it's not the gators that's going to get you. It's the massive quantities of bugs and other critters we have that chew on you. So it's like...
Yes. The bugs, aren't too bad in the wintertime. You can take bug spray if you're so inclined. But honestly, I don't feel like they're that bad in many of the areas along the Florida Trail. But I would take a little bit of bug spray to have on hand. And the alligators, yes, can be problematic when you're going down to a canal to filter out water. But, we as Floridians, you just keep an eye out and you just do your own thing and leave them alone, right?
Glenn, leave your roadkill bait belt at home and you'll be fine.
No little dogs with you.
No.
But you mentioned something about your experience hiking this. You mentioned seeing, and I can't remember the names because I've never heard them before, but seeing certain things grow on trees and stuff like that. So you can take in a lot of our flora and fauna as you're hiking on the trail. So if whoever's listening, if they're nature lovers, would you recommend, any kind of books to bring along, whether it's for, the bird lovers or the plant lovers? Like, what kind of information can you gain and learn as you're going on these trails? And do you recommend any kind of literature to take along with you to kind of categorize this stuff?
Well, to begin with, Sandra Friend, she has run the Florida Hikes website for several decades now. She puts together these comprehensive posts and guides to hiking in Florida throughout the state. It doesn't have to be just a Florida Trail. She also puts together the Florida Trail guide. And so if you're going to hike on the Florida Trail, you would contact the Florida Trail Association first and kind of get some information on what you need to hike through some of these public lands. Most of the areas you don't need any kind of permits. You can just go out there and hike. No big deal. Some of them do cross military installations, which do require a little bit of permits and heads up kind of notice so they know who's out there hiking, as does when you trek across the Seminole Indian Reservation in the middle of the Big Cypress area along Alligator Alley, that section. So there are some permits you would need. And so you would talk to the Florida Trail Association, find out about that, get some maps and guides to help you going along the hike. But also that Florida Trail guidebook from Sandra Friend is extremely helpful for hikers to know what trail towns they're going to be going through for a resupply, when you need to get food, when you need to do laundry, maybe stop in a hotel. But she also has excellent tidbits about the nature along the trail that you might see. But I would also pick up if you want to learn about birds as you're hiking along, or the flora and fauna. There's several great field guides throughout Florida that you could find. I can't think of them any at the top of my head, but there are plenty out there resources for books.
How long will it take you to hike the Florida Trail?
It's about 8 weeks or 10 weeks, depending on how fast you're hiking, how many miles a day you're going.
So 12 weeks for me.
So, and you mentioned that there's a ton of other trails in Florida too. I know we've hiked on some up here near Ocala. There's a bunch up here this way. And of course, the Ocala National Forest, the Florida Trail goes through there, and it's one of the largest forests in Florida. Mm-hmm. And that's federal, isn't it? The Ocala National Forest? I think that's a federal forest. But yeah, so there's a ton of trails, not just the Florida Trail.
Correct. There are lots of trails, state park trails. There are trails on water management district lands. There are wildlife management areas. A lot of the wildlife management areas, you can go do off-trail exploring. Any place where hunting is allowed, there's a lot of off-trail exploring allowed. So if you're ambitious and want to go off-trail and go sightsee and check out different things, that's an option. But, the Florida Trail is kind of a good synopsis of giving you a sight of what you would see through the whole state.
How many people do it a year?
It is growing. When I hiked in 2011, there were maybe 10 to 15 people hiking the tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now it's on anywhere from 30 to 40 are hiking throughout the year. To
give you a comparison, Jemmy, the Appalachian Trail will see 5,000 to 6,000.
Yeah. Wow.
So I would say the Florida Trail's, not as hiked as the others.
No,
wow.
not as a through hike, but it's actually really popular for day hikers and for section hikers. So it's perfect for, you're in your house in Miami and you want to go out and explore Big Cypress. There are plenty of just short day hikes on the Florida Trail that you can do. And that's another book, Sandra Fenn. She has so many guidebooks for hiking in Florida. I would check out her website, Florida Hikes, for any kind of information about hiking in Florida.
And they can also listen to your podcast, too. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I started the Orange Blaze Florida Trail podcast in the spring of 2018. As podcasts had, been going on, getting more popular over the years, there were hiking podcasts, but nobody wanted to talk about the redheaded stepchild, the Florida Trail. And I love Florida. I have this passion for it. And I already had a podcast going and I knew how to kind of put it together. So I started this Florida Trail podcast. And one of my first guests was Jim Kern, the founder of the Florida Trail. And just getting to talk to him about how he came up with the idea in the 60s. He basically had the same kind of idea, like there's this Appalachian Trail. Why can't we have this in Florida? And he began blazing the Florida Trail in the late 60s. And eventually it became a National Scenic Trail. And my goal is just to showcase anybody from through hikers to section hikers, and section hikers are people who just do large chunks of the trail over a period of a few years to decades. And to also talk about people who are doing any kind of work on the public lands, just really giving it a holistic look at what the Florida Trail can offer the hikers who may not have heard about the Florida Trail.
Well, probably not something you want to do tomorrow when it's 1,000 degrees and 1,000% humidity here in Florida, and the bugs are horrendous right now.
July. I do not think July was within her recommended time frame.
No. I noticed a couple people on the Facebook page for Florida Trails said they went out into the Ocala National Forest and they said it was miserable. Yeah, it will be this time of year. It's going to be miserable. And but you can do that if hopefully the whole COVID thing will be whatever behind us come January. And if you're looking at having some fun and getting out and doing some hike, you can do it there. And you can find Misti's podcast. It's called Orange Blaze, a Florida Trail podcast. You can find it on any of the podcast players. Thanks, Misti, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Misti. Hello there, fellow Florida travel fans. We now have an official Patreon. In case you're unfamiliar, Patreon is a great way for community to support the creators of the content you love, like us, podcasters.
If you're enjoying the content we bring you on this show or any of the shows on the Florida Podcast Network, you can help ensure that content keeps coming through a small monthly donation. For just what it would cost you to get a cup of coffee, at Starbucks like you used to, you can make a real difference by helping us chip away at our production costs.
So if today's episode brought some sunshine, entertainment, and information to brighten your day, please help to see that these episodes keep coming by becoming a patron. Head to patreon.com/Florida Podcast Network to support the show. And it comes with some sweet benefits.
You want access to bonus extras, nostalgic for those old school radio shout-outs, lover of good quality merchandise? Well, not only will your monthly contribution help us grow the show, but you'll get some cool stuff too.
So please head to patreon.com/Florida Podcast Network for further details and to become a patron. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Florida Podcast Network.
You can also find the link right here in the show notes or by visiting Florida Podcast Network's website. And thanks in advance for not only being part of our listening community, but also for your continued support.
Finding Florida's list fix.
Well, I have a couple quick lists for you that I found interesting. Actually, the first one I put together, I got to thinking, when I got to thinking about the 50-ounce porterhouse, which I'm still thinking about.
I mean, how have you stopped thinking about it?
I got to thinking, what other big things or what other things that kind of set records in Florida? So I looked up some very random stuff. So this is what I'm calling my random big Florida facts. Do you know that the tallest water slide in Florida is at Blizzard Beach at Disney World? It's called the Summit Plummet. And there's a lot of videos of people wearing cams doing the Summit Plummet. And it is Disney's, it's the largest in the state, not just at Disney World, but everywhere in all the water parks in Florida. And it is 120 feet high. Oh, and it is not one of those with the tube over the top. It is just the running trough that you go down. No tubes, no anything.
Oh my gosh, you have a hard time just getting me up to the top of the stairs.
No, this is pretty high. You can see forever. Like you can see the coast from the top.
Oh my god.
And I have, if you'd like to hear what it sounds like, I have one of the videos queued up. So this takes you 60 miles an hour on an open slide. Oh the sides are only about a foot high.
Nope.
And you're pretty much going straight down.
Nope.
So here's what it sounds like.
All right. Bye. Ah!
Oh my god, no.
Wow.
There you go.
My stomach plummeted listening to that. Oh my gosh.
It was going pretty much straight down. I don't know how the people don't fall over the side.
I mean,
but when you look at the video, you can see literally to Cape Canaveral from up there.
Gosh, like, is it as high as the Orlando? Which is higher, this or the Orlando Eye? I'm asking something off the top of your head.
About the same height, and you know how high that was.
Yes, I do, because you kept telling me to look down like a jerk.
The tallest building in Florida is the Panorama Tower. It's a mixed-use 85-story skyscraper in Miami.
Huh.
Have you been in that?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound at all familiar, but I'm sure I've seen it. I mean, I've been to Miami plenty of times. I'm sure I've seen it, but no, I don't. I'm not familiar with it at all. The Panorama
it's
Tower.
Located in the Brickell district of downtown. I don't know what that is.
Brickell's fun.
But it's residential, hotel, retail, and office space. It's all of those. And it's 85 stories of skyscraper. That's the largest one we have in Florida.
Can you go off to something else big that's not tall? Because you're giving me palpitations. You don't need heights.
Okay, this isn't tall.
Okay.
How about the longest undeveloped beach in Florida is the Cape Canaveral seashore. It's 24 miles of shoreline, and it's at the Cape Canaveral, right below Cape Canaveral. It's the longest stretch of undeveloped public beach on the east coast of Florida.
I wonder if that's because Cape Canaveral is there. Like, I'm wondering if those two things have to do with each other. You know what I mean?
I think what she was talking about, this is part of what she was talking about on the Florida Trail. Yeah, and you can camp on the beach. You can hike in and camp and do all of that.
Interesting.
The biggest yacht docked in Florida is... I told you I went random.
I think we've seen some of those biggest yachts.
We did. We might have seen this one. It's the mega yacht Kismet. Its estimated worth of $200 million. It's a Pakistani American
I make that
billionaire.
In a weekend.
I'm going to say his name wrong, but he's the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, you got to try saying his name.
Shahid Khan?
I think that's right. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, he's the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, our football team up there in Jacksonville. It's available for winter charter from Fort Lauderdale's Yacht Club at a weekly base rate of $1.2 million, not including food, fuel, dockage, and that all can run you 20 to 35% more.
Wow.
So I figured that out. It's about $1.5 million for the week.
Oh my gosh. So in other words, the only people like renting it are people making rap videos.
or other owners of football teams.
Right. Yeah. The NBA players heading to Orlando are going to be making stops over in Fort Lauderdale. That's crazy. crazy.
Now, there are 28 crew members on this ship.
Wow.
It includes a sauna, an elevator, a helicopter landing pad, Wi-Fi connection, gym, exercise equipment, underwater lights, stabilizers, blah, 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 blah.
Oh
So it's nice. It's pretty nice. I saw the pictures. It's nice.
And I'll be really impressed if one of those 28 crew members is like dedicated to wait on me hand and foot. Now I'm really impressed.
I'm sure they are. All of them are dedicated to wait on you hand and foot.
There we go. Sign me up.
The longest zip line in Florida is here in Ocala at the Canyon Zip Lines, which we have to get you to sometime when you come up to
keep
visit.
seeing the billboards. We even, when we went to see, I think it was like an airboat ride or something that you and I were on, and some guy had a hat that was for the Canyon Zip Lines. I remember the weird things I remember. But yeah, I've always wanted to go. After you finally got, convinced me to do a zip line, it was at Tallahassee at the museum. Ever since I've been like, oh, I know I have a fear of heights, but this seems really fun. Sign me up.
Well, this is high, and you wouldn't imagine that in Florida, but it's a canyon. It's a quarry. It's a dugout quarry, so it's pretty high. And it's long. It's the longest zip line in Florida. It's 1,150 feet.
Oh my God!
And you lay down for this.
I'd be the idiot who got stuck in the middle.
So you're not strapped in like we normally are, where you're hanging, sitting. You're actually laying down flat so that your belly's down.
You're like windboarding,
and you're flying,
surfing.
You're surfing. You're flying across. This is one of the largest zip line places in Florida too. I did the short course there, and it took 2 hours. The long course is 4 hours on this one. Yeah.
Goodness gracious! You sweat half your body weight out.
And what would you guess is the largest company in Florida?
Oh, that's a good question. See, I because Disney's on the brain, I kind of want to say Disney, but I think that's too obvious and too localized. I want to go something all over the state. Publix?
Yes, that's correct. It is Publix. It's our grocery store chain.
Oh my gosh.
191,000 employees.
And they're all essential. Yay!
I didn't know it was that big, did you?
Wow. You know what? I'm not surprised. There's a Publix on like every dang on corner in Florida. I'm not surprised. I remember when I was a kid, there was this Publix we used to go to all the time. And then they started building this super fancy Publix, like that had hot sandwiches and all this other stuff, one block over. And for about 3 months, they overlapped and were both open. I'm like, this is amazing. You could walk out of one Publix and wave to the other one. It was great.
I think we have 5 in Ocala, and Ocala's not that big.
No, it's not. I'm actually surprised at that number. Wow. But I'm not surprised that the answer is Publix.
So I also found on one of the travel sites the iconic foods of Florida that everybody must try when they come here. And you can play along with this one at home. Have you eaten these when you've made your trips to Florida or if you live here? So let's go down and see how many of these you and I can.
So in other words, if you haven't made my mouth water yet, you're about to.
That's it. And most of these are going to fall to you because they're seafood and I don't eat seafood. So stone crab.
Ooh, isn't that what we got? Yeah, I got like the lesson on cracking those crabs. One of our trips. Yeah. Oh, those are fun.
That was down to Fort Myers. You were cracking crabs.
Yeah, and they gave
us them. You liked them.
They gave us a buttload to take home with it. It was fantastic.
Cuban sandwiches, which we had in Tampa.
The Columbia. There are a couple different locations, and there was like this satellite location at the museum. So we stopped and we got one, and then we walked over and ate it next to the bay there or whatever with some friends.
Yeah, with a bunch of our friends.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they were excellent. Excellent sandwiches. Rock shrimp.
So I'm assuming I've had rock shrimp. I don't know what makes
You've had every other kind
of rock shrimp, but I'm assuming I have. I don't know what distinguishes it, but it sounds like it's right up my alley.
If it's a shrimp, you've eaten it. So.
Pretty much. So let's put a checkbox there.
And you just had one of these key lime pie.
Let me tell you, it's still lingering on my taste buds. That key lime pie. Thank you again, Gerard, for ordering it and sending it. Thank you again, Glenn, for the assist. It was delicious. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
This one I can't do, and I have tried it. I just don't get it. And they sell them every street corner in every town in the state. They will have a little person probably in the back of their pickup truck selling these, and that's boiled peanuts.
Oh.
I just don't. Have you ever tried them?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No.
So they boil them with the shells and everything on, and you eat the whole thing.
Oh, I was about to say I've had circus peanuts or not the candy, like the ones you get in the bag at the circus, but you don't eat the shells on those. No, you eat the shells?
No, they're soft and gooey, and I just didn't like them at all.
Weird.
People love boiled peanuts. I can't do it.
I've never done it.
And literally, if I go to town, I'll pass 2 or 3 of those little food carts that have boiled peanuts. So somebody eats them. Kumquats. I don't know if I've ever had a kumquat.
I don't think I've ever seen a kumquat, but it's one of my favorite words because it's just fun to say kumquats.
It sounds dirty, doesn't it? It sounds dirty.
It does. But I don't know what it is. I've never seen one, but I'll have to try some next time I'm around some kumquats. Maybe they sell them with the boiled peanuts in the same truck.
Yeah, there you go. Apalachicola oysters.
Another fun one to say. Apalachicola. I get it. I'll get it one of these days.
Do you eat oysters?
Okay, so the thing with oysters is a texture thing with me. It looks like slime and boogers, and it just grosses me out. But a long time ago, my friend Mike took me to a fresh oyster bar and dared me and convinced me and coaxed me to finally try one, and I loved it. But I couldn't eat a second one. The taste was yummy, but I just couldn't look at the dang on things. I can't eat an oyster. How about you?
And don't you suck them down? You don't chew them, do you?
Yes, you do. It's just weird. I'm guessing by the question you've never had one. I don't even know why I asked the question because it's seafood.
To slide down without chewing it.
I would never eat it. Don't question.
I know you've had grouper.
Oh yeah,
you must have had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Grouper's delicious.
And there are certain parts of the coast that are known for grouper. Gator, we both tried gator.
I think we had mixed reviews on the gator, but you know what? I think that's true no matter where you get gator because it's made. It just depends on how you cook it, the spices and all that other stuff. So gator can really, really vary from place to place. If it's really, really good gator, you lucked out.
And then the one thing that was kind of odd on this list, but they must be known for it, and we haven't tried it yet, is Greek salad in Tarpon Springs.
Have we been to Tarpon Springs? I apologize, Tarpon Springs, if we've been there.
I'll try a Greek salad. I like Greek salad, so I'll try that in Tarpon Springs.
That is a weird one, though. I never would have imagined that being on. Are you sure it was on? You didn't the 2 pages of whatever you're looking on weren't sticking together?
Apparently, it's a big Greek community, and they're known for their Greek salads in Tarpon Springs. So we have to try that when we go to Tarpon Springs. We'll get a salad to go with our 50-ounce porterhouse.
I am taking notes. This is a great list.
So how many of those have you had? Again, we're a very seafoody state because we got water all around us.
Whatever you do not eat anything on this list and then go to the tallest water slide in Florida at Blizzard Beach. Those 2 things won't mix well. Well, thanks for coming along with us once again. We're continuing to find Florida even in the midst of this outbreak as it just still goes on.
During this time, we at the Florida Podcast Network will be doing everything we can to keep our community spirits up. We're trying here, people. We'll be sharing loads of content across all of our shows to get you through this craziness together. And you can find it all by heading to floridapodcastnetwork.com.
And if you have anything you want to send over to us to add to that landing page that we have set up there for the coronavirus coverage, you can send it our way. If there's any interesting tips or news bits or anything like that, you can go to the coronavirus coverage page on our website and find all kind of interesting stuff in there, resources, information local to you, etc., etc. And also join us on our Facebook group, FPN Insiders.
And even if you're social distancing, you can still hang out with us on social media. Just search for Find FL Podcast.
All right. You know the drill. Here's to your next Florida adventure, whenever that may be.